This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
New Year, Mike. I guess we still say that on January the 9th. How far do you go into the month before you stop saying Happy New Year?
I don't know, about like 2 days.
Well,
I'm not a Happy New Year guy. I don't know if I even said it.
Well, just allow me to tack on an extra week for that. How do you approach the championship game tonight? Do you allow yourself to root? And if so, do you root for Georgia because of SEC, or do you view it the way that I do, that a win for Georgia has absolutely nothing to do with Arkansas at all, and a win by TCU is just maybe good for college football to see a Cinderella win? I'm not rooting for Georgia. How do you look at it?
Yeah, well, first of all, absolutely, always pick a team. Like if we have an open date, I sit at home on Saturday and watch games from 10 a.m. all the way up till 10 o'clock at night. I love watching games. And I'll always pick a team at some point. I'll watch it for a few minutes, even if I don't care about either team. And then I'll pick one. I go, okay, I like this team. In this particular game, it's a little bit weird, but you have to follow me on this. My favorite cousin, who was more like a brother to me when we were growing up, he grew up in Fort Worth. His dad was a mailman in Fort Worth, and he was a huge TCU fan. He played for this Pee-wee team called the TCU Mighty Mites. And they came over one day after a practice, and Bob Lilly was still with TCU at the time. That shows you how old I am. And he signed an autograph for my cousin, and he kept that thing with him. He was my roommate in college, and unfortunately he died in a traffic accident while we were roommates. And I always I think I decided pretty early on I was going to be a TCU fan for him. So I've always kind of followed him, but it's been tough because they've been so bad over the years. So this thing is like one of those really rare things that hardly ever happens, in which a team that shouldn't be there is there. I mean, where was TCU 2 years ago, last year? This coach they've got, Sonny Dykes, he's okay, but he has no history of having a team like this. Where did this team come from? I don't know. I think it's all about their quarterback. He's one of these guys that he never stops. He's going to keep coming at you. And I think the players just rallied around him. So I agree with you. I think it will be a fun thing if this happens, because it will all these wise guys on the internet that always say you just need a 4-team playoff because there's only 4 teams good enough to be in this thing every year anyway. And I'm saying baloney on that. There are teams that could get in this, and I think we'll see it when it goes to 12 teams. There'll be some upsets. So I like it. I like unusual things, and I'm going to be pulling for my cousin, who'd be going absolutely nuts if he had gotten to experience a season like this. Plus, Sonny Dykes, TCU's head coach, is the son of Spike Dykes, who was a Texas Tech coach in the 80s. And Spike Dykes is from my hometown. I've talked to him he was older than me, 10 or 12 years. But we talked several times about what it was like growing up, what he remembered, what I remembered. So there are a lot of reasons for me to be pulling for TCU.
They might have got some of Texas A&M's players. They just went to the wrong campus. But just if LaDainian Tomlinson is when I think of TCU, I think of LaDainian Tomlinson. Is he the most notable alum in this TCU? Because to your point, they were 5-7 last year. Georgia's lost 3 games in the last 3 years combined. So yeah, right. I think it would be the biggest Cinderella story in college football. I don't know since when. Maybe like in the 90s when the Colorado won the national title, or when the Huskies won it out there in Washington. I can't tell you when.
I'm thinking like Brigham Young in Boston College,
like in the 80s or something. Yeah.
And this would be even more unusual because we have this playoff that everybody's gotten used to, and it's always been kind of predictable, and this is not predictable. So. Yeah, it'd be really, really, really cool. And I don't have anything against Georgia. I've said before, if you want to talk about visiting campuses and being visiting media, that's a good place to go.
Athens is beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, and their fans are not jerks like in Baton Rouge. So I've always liked being there. It's okay, you know, but I got no particular interest in them. So, yeah, you know, let's bring it on, TCU. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I agree about Athens. That's my favorite place to visit in the SEC. You know, decent-sized town, beautiful campus, lots to do. Smaller than Nashville. Nashville obviously is really exciting, but I do love going to Athens. Basketball here, Mike. The men's team, so they haven't won a game on an opponent's home court yet. And look, Auburn's a tough place to play. I mean, it's 26 in a row. So, I mean, that's just a little bit more of the same for the Tigers. LSU's a different thing. Arkansas had success at LSU in recent years. And to not crack 60 points in either one of those games, I think is alarming. And some people will say, look, you don't have to hit threes in order to win games. I think in today's iteration of college basketball, you do. You have to hit threes. I'm not saying they got to hit 7, 8, 9 threes per game, but you got to be able to hit some. You got to hit more than 2. You know, if you're looking to soften up a zone defense, I understand. You got to get to the rim. You got to get it into the paint. But sometimes the way that you do that is by extending the zone by hitting a 3. I don't know if this team can do that right now at all.
I mean, Eric Musselman said way back a month or so ago, maybe even back in late November, he said we can't suddenly create a 3-point shooting team. It's not there. Now maybe Pinion gets hot on some nights. I think Council guys after that Thursday, I think it was Arkansas-Florida women's game. Alyssa Orange and I were out going live after the game, and we had to do some stuff for the morning show. So we were out there about 45 minutes. Ricky Council was out there that whole time working on his game. And I watched him drop in 8 3-pointers in a row from a certain spot. And you say, yeah, but this is a game. Well, it's a game, but he was wide open several times. I think he may have made one.
He hit our only 2. Yeah, I think he hit our only 2 that night.
Yeah, so there are a couple of guys on this team that can probably hit. And I mean, Black has hit a few threes every once in a while. But to me, what happened in that game, and I think the LSU game was completely different. Arkansas shot way too many threes in that game. They do. I don't understand all this, but there was some guy on the internet that had some percentage type formula where you take the shots that were taken by each team and you pair that with the percentage that they've made throughout the season, and it shows you what should have happened when they did this. And he said Arkansas should have won because Arkansas took the shots they should have taken, and Auburn didn't. And I think what he means is Arkansas was inside a lot. They missed 6 layups in that game. If you make those, you probably win the game. So there was a little bit of weirdness to that game. You know, you go inside, you got a point-blank layup, you've worked, you've got it, and it doesn't go in. And I can tell you that Auburn is not the typical 3-point shooting team they usually are. I watched the Auburn-Florida game, which was in late December. I watched a replay of that whole game before this one against Arkansas. They looked pitiful. No energy, nobody shooting, nobody doing anything. They barely won. And I just think then they went and got beat by Georgia on the road, and I think Bruce Pearl fired them up and used that last year's game against Arkansas as fuel. And so they did what they did. To me, right now, there are 2 teams that can go on the road in the SEC and win. Tennessee can do it, and Alabama can do it. And unfortunately, Arkansas is fixing to play Alabama. I think the rest of them, there's 3 or 4 others, they're going to win at home, but they're probably going to lose some road games. That's the way it is this year. And
you got to understand when you're the 13th ranked team in the country, Mike, that when we go into the road, they're fired up anyways. I mean, you got to, yeah. And I thought Auburn controlled the whole game. That was the thing. It was just a butt whooping. Like we didn't look comfortable. Anthony Black played pretty good for the most part, but Anthony Black to me looks like a top 5 pick. I don't know that I know they say 12, but I don't know that there's 12. There's 11 other players better than him. But from start to finish, Georgia just whooped us, and we never looked comfortable the entire game.
Yeah, if you looked at the way they had that arena set up, it looked like the whole lower section was students.
That was great.
Yeah, that's not going to happen at Arkansas because students don't pay much money for those seats. So you got to pay for basketball. So at a place like Arkansas, the people a lot of those people around the lower bowl are going to be high-dollar people that paid a lot of money for it. I guess at Auburn they don't care. I don't know. Maybe they didn't have much demand. I'm not sure what was going on there, but it was really weird to see all of those students sitting down low.
Yeah, that's a small arena. I mean, it's small. It might be the smallest in the entire league, either Auburn or I think Ole Miss. But it's different. I mean, Ole Miss is not going to frighten anybody. They're just not a good team. Auburn has a good program going under Bruce Pearl. And, I mean, you know, Anthony Black said it. I think Muss has mentioned it. I've heard it on various talk shows. People get fired up to face the Razorbacks because they got a number next to their name. I think there's another aspect to this. I think they expect that they can beat Arkansas because right now the Razorbacks are a little bit of a wild card. You know, I mean, I think they play with a lot of energy at home. You know, they feed off the crowd. And they've been like that the last couple of years. I wonder about their ability to go onto an opponent's home floor and win a game. And when it comes to, the tournament, look, you're not on an opponent's home floor, but you don't really get a chance to feed off of your crowd the same way that you do at home. So I do worry a little bit about how Arkansas plays at Bud Walton compared to opponents' home floors. And then once you get into the tournament, I mean, they played well enough in Maui. But I don't know if we can take that into the NCAA tournament because that's a small arena and you had a lot of your fans there and they made a lot of noise.
Yeah, I guess the only real neutral, and it wasn't neutral, I mean, Arkansas had a lot of people in Oklahoma and Tulsa. So I think the only thing you look at is that what historically he's done in 3 previous seasons here at Arkansas, Musselman has had his teams playing much better defense in February and March than in January. And I think that got overlooked in that game. They gave some wide open backdoor layups up in that game. And if they played better defense, I'm telling you, I've watched Auburn. They're not a good shooting team. They might have shot well, but if you'd have forced them to take more outside shots, I think it would have eventually made a difference, and they didn't. The defense wasn't very good. And I think that will improve. I think he will continue to work with them, and they will get better at that. But whether or not this is, what it's been the last 2 years, I have no idea. It's a very talented team, but they're all fairly new to each other. And you say, well, not anymore. Well, yeah, still a little bit. And so we got to figure out. He's still using different people. He's playing people, and he played the other Mitchell twin a lot more than he has been in that game. So he's still kind of experimenting and using different players, and we're still trying to figure out who's going to do this, what, where. What we've seen in most games is some player will step up and have a huge game. Now it was Black in this one; it just wasn't enough. I think we're going to look back, honestly, when the season is over, and that Auburn game is not going to, it's not going to make any sense, but it's not going to be a big deal either. I don't think Auburn's very good. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think we beat Auburn when they come to our place, Mike. I think we'll square up with them, and we're 1-2. We've lost 2 road games. It's two teams I think we can beat, and that just back to the SEC. It's hard to win on the road. You got to have a different mindset, a different focus, and you got to be able to make some outside shot, like Phil said. You can't go into anybody's court, shoot 12% from the 3-point line, shoot under 40% at 2-pointers, and then shoot less than 60% at the free throw line and expect to win the game.
Yeah, but honestly, how many times do you see a team when the season's over, they look back and they go, what happened to us in that game?
Right.
It just kind of jumps out at you like that wasn't really typical. And so what I think people are reading into this so far is, both times on the road they were bad, but they were totally different types of games. I think LSU is better than Auburn.
Yes.
And Arkansas shot too many threes in that game, but that was a much closer game than this was. And yet I think LSU is a better team. So I think maybe was just one of those weird games. We'll see. I'm not trying to make excuses. I just know that when the season's over, teams always look back, and there's 2 or 3 games where you're going, what was that all about?
Well, we get Bama and Missouri the next couple games, right? So it don't get any easier, and ain't nobody going to listen to us whine. So we got to get back in the lab and get to work.
Boy, that is certainly true. Alabama is really good, and
they look good, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, and Missouri there is going to be tough. I mean, I was really surprised with what the women did yesterday. That was impressive. I mean, you talk about a turnaround. I watched that LSU game, and I'm thinking, wow, they're not what we thought they were. And then they've had 3 blowout wins since then, and that was impressive to go there. I don't know how good Missouri is. They had a good record, but Arkansas just embarrassed them on their own home floor. So
11-minute scoreless stretch. It was amazing, and I think LSU was as good as they looked that night at Bud Walton. I think that.
Boy,
wow! I think they just played as good as they can, and that's pretty damn good. Mike, we'll leave it there. I appreciate you as always. Enjoy the game tonight. Go Frogs, and we'll talk about it next week.
Thanks, Mike. Happy New Year.
Aggies. That's an Aggie thing. Forget that.
He dropped a gig on my. Well, it's supposed to be frogs, right? You gig a frog. Ooh, be careful of the gigging thing, though, because we're not going to ever root for the Aggies, and not just because they wear maroon. I mean, I don't think it was a fluke at Auburn. Arkansas right now is one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country. What are the 355 Division I men's basketball teams? Arkansas ranks 344 in three-point shooting percentage. They're good when it comes to holding on to the ball and winning the turnover battle and getting to the rim and getting to the foul line and shooting 2-pointers. You have to hit 3-pointers to win games. You don't have to hit a ton, but you got to show you can score it.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet Online, where the game starts.